Hey guys, I'm Dan.
And I'm Bob.
I'm Spencer.
And today we're looking at Mercurial by Hyperlixer and some other publishers depending on where you are. This is a resource conversion game that plays in about 60 minutes or less, so they say. And we're going to throw it to Spencer first for how to play. Basically, how our videos work is we're going to section them in different sections that break down different things we want to talk about so that you can skip to whatever's most important. We'll give a brief how to play, then we'll go over a kind of open discussion on what we think of the game, then we'll have a final rating at the end out of 10 for anyone that cares about that. But first, let's jump into how to play this game.
All right, so this is mainly a card game, and the purpose is to get points. The way you're mostly going to get points is by buying these heroes up here on the top. And in order to buy the heroes, you need to cast spells. And there's two different kinds of spells. You have the Ruin and the Restore. So Ruin is the red one, and the little blue-green one is Restore. And you need to cast these spells by manipulating your dice. You have all these dice that you're going to roll at the beginning of your turn, or after you cast a spell, you roll the dice, and then you're going to spend the next several turns using these cards to manipulate your dice so that you can start gathering these spells and chaining them into one big spell to see how many you can get and get points. There are some pretty interesting aspects of that. We have mana and what were these guys called?
Acuity.
Acuity. Mana and Acuity. They can help you buy these things. Acuity goes away. Mana comes back. We also have like these things. When you buy one down here, more Acuity comes down on the ones to the left of it. You can only buy one at a time. So when you're going to play, there's two kinds of turns you can make. You can either do a take and play, or you can cast the spell that you've just prepared. So for a take and play, first you can take either one of these skill alteration cards. They don't cost anything. You just put it in your hand, or you can take one of these spells by using your dice and saying, I have this one here. I'm going to now put these guys here to pay for those, and then I would have this one, and I would take that spell. And then you can also take the spell on the end, and you can bury it under there, and you get yourself one Acuity. And the last thing you can do is, when you have your hand of cards, you can pick them up from your discard pile instead, because sometimes you really need to have the same card that you just spent. So after you take, well, you can do the take and the play whenever. There's no order here. So when you're playing a card, you're playing one of the ones from your hand. They're multi-use cards. Mm-hmm. I like that. So they all have basically three things you can do with them. The first one up here is the primary use of the card. Like this one will allow someone to convert lightning into fire. And if they have at least two sigils of this type, they can convert fire into lightning. Or you can turn a die onto its opposite face. Instead, all of the ones you buy here allow you to re-roll 2 dice and then play another card. Or you can trash this card, pay 1 Acuity, and then you can pick up 2 cards on your turn instead of just 1, which can be very useful when you see 2 things you don't want someone else to get. Then you have casting the spell. When you're trying to cast a spell, you're going to have, there's all these different types of spells that do different things to the spell that you're casting. So this one here lets you choose if I want to have either Ruin or Restore. And you want to know the difference, because if I have a spell that has 3 Ruin and 7 Restore, they cancel each other out. And so I only have a 4 Restore spell. So like this one will allow me to turn all that Restore into Ruin, and suddenly I have a much larger Ruin spell. This one will multiply. There's multipliers. There's all sorts of interesting things that these spells can do. And finally, once you get all of those spells ready, you can cast them. You make certain that all of them have been paid for. You count up how much everything is, and you convert everything. And then any leftover dice get counted. And finally, you check and see how much. Every one of these heroes has 2 costs. So if I got a spell that was 10 Ruin, I could take this one for 10 Ruin, even though it has a 13 Restore cost, because the Ruin is enough. I can count the leftover dice on everyone's little card, they have how you convert those into either restore or ruin. And any extra you have gives you points. So casting all these things, just no matter what, you're getting points out of them. But if you can manage to cancel each other out exactly to 0, if I have 7 restore and 7 ruin, and they cancel to 0, I have achieved mist, which is this little thing up here. And for 7, I would get to buy an 11 ruin or 15 restore card. And I would get this, which is a one-shot ability that does something cool. You can also, further up, you get more advantages, like you can get points and you can get more of the resources. Yeah, and you play until a certain number of cards have been bought off of this market.
Yep, depending on player count.
Depending on player count. You also have, like, if you can achieve the cool little bonus up here, you can get these pets, and they give you bonus points at the end of the game.
Yep. Like mid-game objective kind of deal.
Yeah, mid-game objectives. And you have, like, the sigils can be worth points if you have them in pairs or more and things like that.
Yeah, a little bit of set collection.
Yeah, definitely set collection. I believe the one time we played it, I had quite a few in sigils.
Yes.
And they
time,
can make a difference. And I think that's pretty much how... Oh, there's one more interesting thing this game does. There are 4 kinds of elements, obviously, but then each 6-sided die also has a void face and an ether face. The void face doesn't do anything, but it's easy to convert. There are a lot of cards that let you convert them. But the ether face doesn't do anything except if you have a card that shows an ether on it. That lets you activate this larger one instead. One
like
ether
boost.
will activate all
like
of
a boost.
them. Yeah, it's a boost. And sometimes you need ones that have ether on them in order to get bonuses and things.
Yep. So just as an example for the one he's pointing at, this one's worth 3 restore, but if you have an ether, it's worth 5 restore.
Yes.
Yep.
So that's just an example there. The only other thing I wanted to add, I thought that covered most things, is just that, just so you guys know, you do have the players that you can choose. One side of them is all the same for like a beginner game or something like that, and then the other side are all asymmetric characters that have different. Some have powers, and they all have different like setups. How many cards
dice you
and
get,
stuff
how many
like
starting
that.
resources.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that is a basic breakdown on how to play Mercurial. If that sounds interesting to you, let's see what we think in our open discussion section. Okay, guys. Bob, I know you have notes.
Well, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
So I'll just start off just with my basic thoughts. Sure. I don't feel super strongly about this game one way or another. I'll say that if any of that sounded familiar to you, it might be because you've played Sentry before. This game definitely feels like someone liked the idea of Sentry or any of those resource conversion type games. Sentry's just like the famous one. And they said, okay, I just want it to be like deeper and more complicated. And I don't fault them for that at all. That's what I want out of Sentry. It's why I like Shadow Network so much. And I also like seeing games get taken and changed the difficulty of. Take a really complicated game like Twilight Pyramid, make a light version of it. Take a really light game like Sentry and make a deeper version of it. I like that kind of stuff because then you can give people who don't like the play style but like the idea of the game a chance to play that game, right? Another example is we talk a lot about, we really like Bang and Call to the Deep, right? Call to the Deep is kind of just they took Bang and they made it deeper, and then like there's just more going on. That doesn't make it better than Bang necessarily, because if you really like the Western theme or if you really like the more simple, straightforward gameplay of Bang, it does that. But Call to the Deep is like, okay, here's the same basic idea, but we're going to add, all these different cult things going on and more intimidating abilities, you could say. And I like when people do that, because while you can say like, oh, it kind of just feels like the other game, it's like, yeah, but like, does it? Because I'll say this game has a Sentry feel on it, but not really. There's definitely people who like Sentry will not necessarily like this game, and people who like this game will not necessarily like Sentry, but you can see the crossover that's there.
Yeah.
So all I'll say in this kind of open discussion is I enjoyed this. I just think there were a couple small flaws for me that definitely don't make it like a perfect game or anything like that I'm sure we'll go into. But overall, I liked it. I would play it again. Just some quick remarks as I think it plays long. And it is intimidating how much iconography stuff is in this game, but
Yes, it is.
I don't mind that, because this is one of those games where after 5 plays, everything's memorized and you don't care anymore. And so I don't look at that like a game feeling like it plays too long isn't really going to go away. You know, like if a game overstays its welcome, it's gonna overstay its welcome. Even if you get really good at the game and you get that time shorter, it's still overplaying because the short time should have also been shorter. So no matter what, it's slightly overstaying its welcome. A iconography overbearing is not an insta kill for me. I mean, you love
Race for the Galaxy.
Race for the Galaxy.
I knew which one you were talking about.
Yeah.
Race for the Galaxies is
all icons.
Iconography, iconography
icons.
hell.
But once you know them all, it's just
to
boom,
it,
boom, boom, boom. I know exactly
there
what it
is
does.
no iconography anymore. You just go, I play this card and it does this.
Yeah,
you know.
you know
So
what it
and that will happen to this eventually, but it is definitely overbearing if you get into it. But that'll be probably my overall thoughts. I liked the feeling overall.
Okay.
Yeah, Dan, I mean, you're 100% right. You said a lot of the things that I agree with, right? Like, I'm a fan of Century. I like how light it is. It's easy for me to get to the table, to introduce people to, like, the resource conversion type of mechanic. And this does just take it and really amp it up. It is an icon overload at the very beginning. There's a lot of icons to teach and learn, and there's some pretty good player aids that give you a breakdown of what all those icons mean, but I really wish there was a breakdown of the turn structure and like the different types of turns and actions, because the take and pick action, there's like 4 different versions of take and pick, and it'd be nice to have those broken down, especially for newer players. And so I ended up just taking a picture of my phone and using that as a shorthand reference, which is fine. But I mean, they did such a good job of putting all this stuff on here. I wish they would have added that in there as well. And it is broken down on the back of the book, which is where I took my picture from, and it is a nice breakdown. And just having that player aid would have been super helpful also.
Yeah, I definitely feel like they did this backwards, because this is awesome to have. Again, I will never knock a company for having this, but this isn't something I need 24/7.
Yeah.
You know, just put that on the back of the rule book usually. You know, you have the icon breakdown on the back of the rule book, and someone says, hey, can I see what that icon does really quick? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Having like a turn structure and stuff, I kept having to say, hey, what do I do on my turn?
Yeah.
Like when I was first learning this game, and like I just feel like those were done backwards. But anyway.
Yeah. I really do like the art. I think the art is fantastic.
The art is amazing.
I like how they take a lot of the cards, and while the art is very similar on a couple of cards, but it's like, but it's taking this resource and making it to this, but then you have another card that's taking a different resource and making it something else.
Yeah,
and they just
you got it.
slightly change it a little bit. Yeah, just like that.
So this one here, a mountain turns, or fire turns into void. This one turns either lightning or fire into void, and so you see the different kinds.
The element
here.
he's holding is slightly different, and I like that. I like just change up, just that small little tweak can really add a little flavor and depth to it. And even like the pictures on the little mid-game goals up there are really good. So
they're amazing.
Big fan of the art.
Even the difference between, so you have these almost landscape cards here in portrait form, which is
portrait
funny.
landscapes.
But you have these almost landscape cards here. You have these like characters here with the thematic spell colorings, and then you have these ancient scrolls.
They're like the scrolls out of Avatar.
Like so. Even though they're all completely different art styles, they look really good together.
It's funny you said that, because earlier in the game I pointed out when it looked like an earthbender. I'm like, it looks like an earthbender.
I know, exactly. I know.
One of the things I didn't care for so much is like how your starting resource at the beginning of the game and after each time you cast is random. So now I'm like, crap, now I really have to deal with all these random resources. Usually I'm a big fan of rolling dice, but then like it became tricky to start manipulating all those and taking a lot of turns to get my dice where I wanted them to be. The other critique I had was the ability that Spencer was mentioning, where you take the card on the end and you kind of bury it to get in yourself an acuity to kind of refresh the market, which refreshing the market is always good. I mean, I do like that is an option to do, but I feel like that shouldn't be your main action, as your, because usually your take action is when you're taking things, doing stuff. So instead of actually taking it, you're just burying it, and all you're getting is one of these little guys, which is not a whole lot of resource, and then I don't get to take anything else. But I figured if that was maybe my play card action, and then I could still take one of these converter cards or something like that, that could have maybe helped speed it up a little bit, because it does feel like it runs long. I feel like a game, like this, that's basically just resource conversion should be done shorter, unless there's something else like a Shadow Network where you're doing some worker placement and some other types of things. And I don't mind that game takes 90 minutes because there's more going on, whereas it doesn't quite feel like there's a whole lot going on right here besides the resource conversion. And I feel like 90 minutes is a bit long for that type of a game. And that's basically the notes that I had taken on this. It's not a bad game, but I just feel like it is long for what it is. That's my biggest critique. But like I said, big fan of the art. I like some set collection, and like these guys feel like it's a lot of work to get that, and I earned 3 points. All of us
No,
earned
five
3 points
total, because they gave you 2 points too.
No, but I got 2 points plus like the
plus
other
the 3.
thing.
Yeah.
No. Because it's
Oh.
for every 2 cards, not for every 1 card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got
3 points.
5 points
I got
off.
5
Oh, yeah,
points
5
off
points
mine,
off yours?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I got 3 points
Yeah,
off
I had
mine.
6 of those cards.
Oh,
in my
nice.
thing.
Yeah, I had 3 cards, so I was 1 shy of getting my 4th point on there. Yeah, so it was tough.
But once I got this one, which needed me to have a spell that had at least 4 elements in it,
Right.
and I realized it gives you points for every spell that you've put in, I was like, take the cheap and quick one so I can just fill it up and try to get it.
Sure.
It might
Well,
not have been worth it.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I got that relatively quick, so I was trying to gain the fire ones, but then
Yeah,
there wasn't
yeah.
a lot of like the fire cards out, and if
Yeah.
there was, they're all for like the ruin, and the
If
ruin
there was
is
a
a lot more
refresh,
difficult.
like a big refresh, not a one at a time. but,
Sure.
like,
yeah, like
refresh
something
the market.
slightly bigger, or like I said, to be able to bury something and still be able to take something else, I think would
Yeah,
help to
definitely.
speed it along a little bit. But
I had a couple small things. I actually can't remember the second one, so hopefully while talking about the first one really slowly, I remember. So one thing I wanted to point out that is a tiny thing, but I think is really cool, is a lot of times games will do this and it doesn't matter, and this game made it matter. And that is that the dice, Spencer was talking about this, the dice have all the elements on them, right? And then the void and the whatever. And a lot of times in games for thematic reasons, they'll say, so in this example, water and fire are on opposite sides. That's a cool thematic thing because they're opposites of each other. A lot of games do that. That's fine. This game makes it matter because there's a lot of cards that let you flip your dice.
Yeah.
So there is a
Wow.
thematic reason to have water and fire be opposites, and you can turn fire into water because you're reversing the spell.
Yeah, I like that.
That is a really cool way to make that actually matter. So I just wanted to point that out. I think that's really cool. The second thing was actually off of your notes, Bob, and I can't remember. I can't remember what it was, but it's fine.
player aid resources.
It doesn't
Okay.
matter.
That's right. When we were learning the game originally, it did take us quite a bit longer.
Yeah,
but
it was about 2 hours for a
at
learning
least,
game.
Yeah, but it was a learning game. It was a lot easier to teach after that first one,
Sure.
and a lot faster the second time around. So it didn't overstay its welcome as much. And I would definitely play this game again. Again, the art is amazing.
Yep.
Each one of these scenes, I'm like, I could just take this and craft a book around getting to that scene.
Or blow it up and put it up, make a poster out of
Oh
it.
gosh, yes. I mean, that one, oh, they're gorgeous. I actually like that when I roll the dice, I have no idea what I'm going to get because these things let me try to convert it, and that's like a puzzle. And I'm like, okay, can I figure out this puzzle?
Sure.
And it does take a little bit because you only play 1 card at a time. Everyone gets a card that lets you play 2, but it's. I kind of wish you could do a little more so I could get kind of an engine going.
A little bit of a slog. You know, you don't really feel like you're building an engine.
Yeah,
at all.
I honestly feel like the game would be drastically improved by just some kind of expansion to come out. I know the game's not even out yet, or some kind of rule thing or something that would just get your engine started a little faster. That seems to be the only issue here because, again, I like most of it, but my biggest problem is that it overstays its welcome slightly. And if you just get your engine built a little faster, you just get those gears turned a little faster, then I think that could help this quite a bit. The thing that I wanted to say, because you guys have both talked about the player count. So on BGG, it says people have said that this game plays better at the lower player counts. And I was wondering if you guys agreed with that idea. Do you think that that's going to make a difference, or is it literally just people are saying the game plays faster with less people? So
I mean,
let's do
that
it.
could be. I
So-
mean, now our game obviously didn't take or what lasted longer because there was a learning game.
Right.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see how, like, a 2-player, like a heads up, you're kind of just doing that back and forth. It could be a little bit more fun than if I had a 4th player to that. This would have been a 2-hour game.
Yeah, I'm just wondering
Yeah,
if it's
maybe,
not that it
but-
plays better at less people, it's that it plays faster because there's less people and there's
Yes.
less people taking the cards you want.
That too.
So I think it's not that it plays better, it's just that people want to do what they want to do.
Right.
Like that's what it
I
kind
want
of
that
seems
card.
like
I got to
to
make sure
me.
that 3 other people don't mess with that
Yeah,
card.
yeah.
But,
So I don't
'cause
know.
I'm taking all these turns to manipulate my dice the way I want them so I can take that card, and then Spencer takes it.
Yeah. But at the same time, there was a lineup of absolute crap. They both bought cards. I'm like, oh, a good one came out.
Yeah, there was one that was like almost all
Yeah.
water cards, and it's like, okay, well, I literally took 3 turns in a row. I was like, I'll bury that card. I'll bury that card. I'll bury that card.
Yep.
Just trying to get different cards out there, and yeah.
I did not think that it was worse with more players.
Okay.
I actually liked it a little bit more, but
Ooh.
at 4, that I think it would be the turning
Be
point.
too many, yeah.
So
like
not
3,
too many,
2,
but
then
it would
4.
not be as good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would definitely take longer, and you don't. I think it's only 3 heroes each person would, one person would get, so it would feel
Right, so it
like you
shortens
just
the
started.
end. It shortens the end game. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. I do like how the mana comes back to you, so it's like a resource.
Oh,
And
yeah,
as
that's
as
nice.
you're buying heroes, you're getting this resource that like it's like a threshold. Like you're building it up, and yeah, you use it, but you still have it to spend again later. And then the acuity is one that's just disposable, and you're just kind of burning through it to do different types of actions and collect cards and whatnot. So
Yeah,
I mean
and-
that's interesting.
And you only gain mana by
Gaining the
these heroes up here, because you get one
Each.
mana and one acuity each, and they go up on your little board up here. And you can only get up to 10.
Only hold 10. So yeah.
But yeah, I liked how they did the resources with that. It was very nice.
I like what they tried to do, and I'm not saying they didn't succeed, but I like what they tried to do with the asymmetric abilities. All have their own sigil and their own element, right? So it is kind of like, oh well, I like water, but like I don't think that comes into play enough. Like we were talking about people taking each other's cards. That's because you just, again, like my issue I have with Sentry, you just take the best card that's out there for you for what you have right now. You're just like, okay, well I have 3 water. I'll take the card that's 3 water on it, right? So like that's gonna happen a lot of the time, and so I wish that this specialist thing came into play more often. I wish we were slightly more asymmetric in the element route. Like I should be taking more. I'm the water guy, according to this. I should be taking more water than them, and that doesn't really happen unless I
Unless you
happen to
roll it.
roll a bunch of water,
Right. Or if you
So-
roll a bunch of the Aether.
yeah. And I wish that mattered more. So
Yeah,
I do like how we all have different starting
abilities. Yeah,
the cards.
Yeah.
Our starting cards are all different, so that does change it up.
yeah,
a bit. Like different items.
Yeah, so there's gray items, and you can only tell because of on the side there's a little gray bar. Some of them were gray, but then they would fade into another color because that's specific.
Yeah, and I
to
had a
that
hard time with that
character.
color, but luckily during gameplay it's irrelevant. So
nearly as
Spencer
important.
sets it up and it's
Yeah,
fine.
exactly. And then the purple cards here are items that are only handed out at the beginning of the game, and so there's kind of some replayability there because you'll never know what kind of items you get.
the last thing I wanted to cover was, Spencer, you're the one that had to learn this out of the book, right?
Yeah.
What'd you think about the book? How'd you think?
How'd you think? I don't know.
Thinking is hard. The book was all right. It had pictures and everything. It took a little bit of thinking on certain parts. There were some places where it was hard to find some things, so it was all right. It wasn't the greatest book, but it was good.
Okay. Anyone else have anything else? That was a funny sentence.
Yeah,
Yeah, I had one.
ahead.
Oh yeah. The components. I mean, these dice.
The
I
dice
love
are
these
nice, yeah.
dice.
Super
They're-
nice.
They're great.
I do think it was smart, like you were saying, because I did point that out to you when you were. When you were
I didn't
playing.
notice.
You're like, water, yeah. Other side's fire. You're like, what? Oh. And the light, the dark, the fire, the water. Yeah, that was a smart design.
Yeah, well, because I didn't notice because, like, I probably noticed, but like,
Didn't
again,
click.
a lot of games do that. So it's just like, yeah, and then it wasn't until you pointed out that I was like, oh yeah, the reversing is like a big thing in this game.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yep.
And like their tarot card size.
I love tarot cards.
Yeah, you gotta love those. The cardboard here, it's nice and thick. It's not flimsy.
It's nice and
And it comes with these trays.
Yeah.
That are just so.
And then they
cool.
slide in the boxes. Hey, I hope you put it away
put 'em
when
in
we
the lid.
played. And
are
Yeah.
they
It's a nice
tame
box.
grays?
What?
No,
No.
I don't think so.
No, they're not.
They're not.
No copyright
nay.
broken. Okay, well, now guys, we're gonna actually jump into our rating for the game. Okay, I don't know what you guys want to do. I'm okay with going first because I'm kind of just sitting here in the middle. So I don't know what you guys are thinking. I'll give you guys a second, and I'm actually, it's rough for me, honestly. At this point, I'm sitting between a 6.5 and a 7. It is an above average game. It's not bad in any way. I think for now, I'm going to push to a 7 because I see the potential here. I think this game's cool. I think, again, it takes a game that I don't like at all, which is Sentry. I find Sentry too basic for me. Yell at me all you want. And I think that this makes it more interesting to me. I like the depth here. I like the decisions I'm making. And I also think, again, that once I learn the stuff here, it's not going to take me 5 minutes to make a decision. I think that is, you just, which one are you doing? Casting? No? Okay, well, then you're picking playing. You play one card and you pick one card unless you play other cards. So, like, it's not that the decisions are hard. It's just that you're trying to build an engine. So you're looking at your hand, you're going, okay, what can I proc this turn? And I think that once you get used to that, it's not going to take as long. I am just worried about overstaying its welcome, but I think it's interesting. I'm going to push it to a 7.
Okay. Well, I was sort of where you're at, but I think I'm gonna go to a 6.5 because like I like the simplicity that Sentry has with it. This would be a little bit more, like I said, difficult to get to the table. Not that I wouldn't play this game. Like this one's just like, hey, you want to play this? Sure, I'll sit down and play it. At
Well,
4
you go like
players-
this.
Yeah, I'd be like, well, how much
Sure.
time you got? But like I said, it's not a bad game. It's just not one that I'm going to reach off the shelf to grab. And for an hour and a half, there's other things I'd rather do. But there are people that I think this game is for. I just for me, not quite. So I think a 6.5 is pretty good.
All right. Well, I'm giving this a 7.5.
Okay.
It has a 1-player, and I haven't tried that yet, but that's always nice to see.
Yeah, it is a full 1 to 4 players.
Yeah.
And I think that if they come out with an expansion, like giving asymmetric powers a little bit more oomph, speeding up that engine in the beginning, this could definitely jump higher.
Oh, I totally
Sure.
agree with that, dude. If those two things were changed at some point, I would
clear out
look
the market.
forward to playing this game again.
Yeah, I mean, that could jump it by more than a point. I mean, yeah. So,
Okay. So if
do
we
we
take
got?
our scores and we average them together, 7.
Okay.
It's a solid 7.
7. Again, I think that's a really good score for this game for obvious reasons. That's what I gave it. But no, I think that it's an above average game. It's
closest to
right
that going
there
over.
on the border of like good and like really good. Like I think it's right there on the border of like, yeah, it's I would say it's good. You know, and so let us know in the comments below what you guys think. If you've played Mercurial yet, if you've had a chance, I know not very many people have. It's been at some locations. And if not, have you pre-ordered it? Are you looking forward to buying it? All that kind of stuff. Or has you said it's delivering also?
I believe the Kickstarter is going to be delivering very soon. When this drops
so
out,
people
which will be
probably
October.
don't have any copies yet.
Right.
Okay.
But yeah.
maybe
Okay.
by the time this comes out, I don't know.
Yeah. But you guys let us know what you guys think of Mercurial. We are very interested.
What's your
but-
favorite resource conversion game?
Yeah, and check out Shadow Network. People don't know that game. It's really good.
It is.
But yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. From the Board Game Rundown, I've been Dan,
Bob.
Spencer.
and we will see you next time.